Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and welcome, people, to episode 1 of DaaM-U-Football. It is one of our other extensions that we're doing, the ever-expanding DaaM universe, the DaaM-U, as we've called it. We also have the Ian will be hosting a games podcast with Andrew when his software works. We've also got the Playing It Forward, which there'll be another episode available shortly. And obviously we've got the free weekly podcast show. I'm saying free because the possibility that we might end up charging subscription fees for this at some point, but we don't know. But as of now, it is free for your ears' pleasure. This is my first solo podcast. So hello everybody. For people who are not familiar, I am Dude Foz, aka Mark Foster, from Dude and the Monkey, the film podcast. In this podcast, we're going to talk about my other great passion in the world. No, it's not strong pornography. It is actually football. I am a huge obsessive football fan. And I've thought about doing a football podcast for a number of years, but never really plucked up the courage to do it. So I thought, you know what? Fuck it, why not? So it'll probably be weekly once the actual season gets going, and I'll discuss general sort of what's gone on in the week. Probably just in Premier League, but also occasionally across Europe for the big games and things like that. But we are actually in transfer window territory at the moment. Amazingly, we are, but the transfer window isn't actually open for another sort of 12, 14 days. It's currently the 18th of June. Transfer window isn't actually open until the 1st of July. But a few teams have actually already got some things, deals over the line, and obviously people start getting prepared as we get closer and closer and closer to the actual window opening itself, because pre-season trainings usually go back for most teams on sort of the 1st or 2nd of July anyway. So, in this first episode, what we're actually going to look at is the transfer into the top 6. So, we're going to look at aspirations of what they're going to look to get, what they might actually need, and who's probably going to leave. We'll discuss the astronomical fees that are actually currently being bandied about. Football's kind of gone crazy at the moment. A player who might have cost you 20 million last season, the equivalent kind of player now this season, you're looking at paying sort of 30 to 35 million. And you could also obviously say with the top 6 of the Premier League, with the way it is at the moment, you've got 5 or 6 clubs there who are very reasonably looking to mount a very serious sort of title challenge. There's 5 English clubs in the Champions League next season, with obviously the usual top 4, and then Manchester United get an extra place via the Europa League. So it does mean that it is going to be much more of a interesting season in terms of how teams are approaching the title. There's Chelsea obviously will be back around. Man City will be wanting to improve upon what was a disappointing season. Tottenham aren't going anywhere, it would seem. Liverpool onwards and upwards from last season. And then obviously Arsenal want to be trying to prove that they're not the team in decline that they're seeming to be. And Manchester United, you can never rule out Manchester United. One thing Mourinho does is he wins trophies. He might not play the most interesting football doing it, but you can't argue with the guy's results record. So it's going to be an interesting season. So what I'm going to run through it is in standard order of top 6. So starting with who finished first last season, which was Chelsea, and then running through to obviously who finished 6th last season, which was Everton. No, it wasn't Everton. I walk over those. They finished 7th. It was actually Manchester United finished 6th last year. So we'll cover those. I might even mention some Everton bits because there is some interesting stuff going on with them there, so it might even form into a top 7. But we'll start at the very, very top with Chelsea. You can't really call Chelsea a surprise package. They had a terrible season in the 14-15. In the 15-16 season, Mourinho's departure and finishing, I think it was 10th they finished. And it seemed like sort of the wheels have fallen off a little bit. Antonio Conte came in. He's got very strict methods and a very set out way he wants to play. He requires a lot of discipline, a lot of tactical discipline, and he makes teams very difficult to beat. I think last season they were unfairly, I think, criticised by some but not many for being sort of too defensive and constantly looking to sort of not get beat rather than to win. I thought it was crazy the fact that they went on a 14-game winning streak, which essentially won them the title. You know, if you go 14 games without not winning without losing. If you've got 14 games where you win each individual game, you've picked up almost half the amount of points in a third of the season that you would need to finish in the top four. So that did help them. But that's how the game works. You know, they had a very good run. They took a big advantage of it. Conte switching to the back three after a defeat to Liverpool. And then from there on, I think they lost to Arsenal after that. They went from strength to strength, building on a core of 14 to 15 players, a strong defence, and utilising their better players up front, with Costa in very good form between, you'd say, November and sort of January, and then he faded off once he had the protracted contract talks with various clubs in China that didn't quite work out, and he never seemed to quite find it. But then once he kind of steadied a little bit, Hazard came back into the frame. He was very much pushing for Player of the Year territory. He's a fantastic player. I personally think that Hazard is mildly overrated in the way that some people would say that he's in that small group of players just below Messi and Ronaldo. I don't think he's quite that good. I think his figures would need to improve significantly for him to get anywhere near the Suarez, Ibrahimovic, Neymar kind of bracket. But let's be honest, he's still one of the better players in the Premier League. So Chelsea, the key there is, how I'm going to look through it, is what it looks like they'll need and what they'll actually want. So the big talk so far with Chelsea is Conte saying that he no longer wants Diego Costa at the club, which apparently was sent by a text, which is very strange, but in modern football there's nothing really that will surprise you that much. It would seem strange, but then again, this is a player who was itching for a big money move in January, so it seems like Conte knew that he needed him to actually win the title and didn't want to spend money in January to replace him. But then as soon as it's finished, I think it's the elephants never forget syndrome with Conte, and he's decided, you know what, no, I don't need that. It could have destabilised the amazing run the title push they were on. So he's decided he's gone. I think Chelsea have long adapted this policy of having an awful lot of players out on loan. That will continue. They'll continue to do that. But a few of them might end up going. I think Thomas Callas is looking to go. Tammy Abraham's going to go out on loan again. Marco van Ginkel will look to move, as will, I think, Warren Remy's out of contract, I believe, or he'll look to move on. So you'll have a few sort of players leave there. But with no Champions League with no European football last season for Chelsea, they kind of did utilise quite a small squad. So you can't see anybody going. You've had John Terry's departure. His big hole is Gary Cahill, the one to fill that one. He's been made club captain, but you doubt he doesn't seem to have the stature within the game or in that dressing room really to replace Terry. But then again, John Terry was at Chelsea for nearly 22 years and won pretty much everything there. So it is going to. It's always going to be sort of difficult to replace that. You don't look for a direct replacement. You look to adapt to different ways. In terms of for moving, I think last season Kante was an incredible signing for Chelsea. He created that barrier between defence and attack, but he is so much more than a midfield, just a defensive midfield player. He's a link of breaking things up, and then he plays the pass to the person who plays the pass. So he's the third ball, or you'll say. A position which, for instance, Xabi Alonso made a career out of. He had the ball and he necessarily didn't make the assist, but he played the pass before the assist a lot of the time. Michy Batshuayi came in, scored the title-winning goal, but didn't do much else. Possibility he could leave, but then if you're looking at getting rid of Michy Batshuayi and Diego Costa, there you're having to bring in two forwards, which leads us to who Chelsea are looking at. They signed Romelu Lukaku in 2011, I think, for near 17 million when you include all the add-ons and everything, and then proceeded to not really use him, loaned him out to West Brom and then to Everton, and then subsequently Everton actually purchased him for 26 million, I think it was, or 28 million. And he's gone from strength to strength. Very confident boy, but also as well, his numbers speak pretty clearly. For Everton, he's in 3 seasons, he's more than a goal in every 2 games, and that's for an Everton side who, let's be honest, they're not in the upper echelons. They're around about in the top sort of 8, but he's not playing for a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or anything like that. So for him to finish the season 37 Premier League games, 25 goals, is very impressive. I think last season 37 and 18. Season for that 36 10, not fantastic, but one thing it does show in the past 4 or 5 seasons, I think it's 5 seasons now in the Premier League, since he went out on loan to West Brom 2012, 2013. He's missed just 7. I think he's missed 14 games. 14 games in 5 seasons. To miss that is quite an impressive feat, to be honest, when you compare him to somebody like, let's say, Aguero or Daniel Sturridge, who can quite easily miss 14 games in an actual Premier League season themselves. And one thing you are getting with Romelu Lukaku is consistency, and of course he's still young, and he's improving. 20 goals overall in all competitions 2014, 2015, 25 goals in all competitions 2015, 2016, 26 goals in all competitions 2016, 2017. So they're going up in small increments, but they're certainly going up. He will cost though. Chelsea will have to break their own substantial record, 50 million for Fernando Torres to actually get Romelu Lukaku. Everton won't be looking to let him leave lightly. Everton have also, they've spent money so far. John Pickford going for nearly 30 million for a young goalkeeper, and Klasan going for 24 million. Everton spent over 50 million already, which is crazy for a club that used to be the butt of a lot of jokes about their lack of spending power and their reticence to actually spend money. They're throwing it around quite liberally, which a lot of Premier League clubs will do. The amount of money that is running through this league now is incredible. But it does smack a little bit of, they have an idea that Lukaku is going to go. He's been making a lot of noises. His agent's been making a lot of noises that he wants to leave. So, not wants to leave as such, but wants to move on to further his career elsewhere. Romelu Lukaku wants to win World Football of the Year, and it doesn't happen at Everton, unfortunately. No offence to Everton, but it doesn't happen at most clubs. So he'll want to move on there. Chelsea have the added bonus of it being them needing a striker. There's also the thing of it being in London. Players do like living in London. He's used to London. He's probably still at home in London. He's also been at Chelsea. Will he want to go back? Does he feel like he needs to prove himself? But then there's the bit of, do Chelsea want to throw 80 million at one player? It's a lot of money, and Chelsea over the recent years have shown more restraint than they did in the early years of Abramovich. So who knows with that, but it's certainly one they'll be looking at. There are a couple of other clubs, one which we'll discuss later on, who are also looking at Romelu Lukaku. Another name being linked quite heavily, and apparently is virtually a done deal, is Timori Bakayoko, the defensive midfielder for AS Monaco. Monaco had a fantastic season last season. They had a great balance with youth players, and it seems like a lot of their most prized assets have been picked off by Premier League clubs. You've got Silvers joining Man City. Everybody's trying to sign Mbappe and Mendy as well, the left back. But Bakayoko, it does seem like he is very much sort of Chelsea bound already. That seemed like it was a done deal quite a while ago. It seemed like that they'd already kind of set the nail down in that deal a number of sort of months ago. It never seemed like anyone else was really going to try and push for that, because it did seem like Chelsea have got that. I think the purported to be I think around sort of near 40 million. So. So that's looking like it's going to be a good player. Big, strong guy. it looks like he could be the replacement for Nemanja Matic there. Matic, he's not. It's not as such like he's getting, he's an old player or anything like that. He's still only 28, so he's still in his prime, but has not quite had the same impact that he had when he first came back to Chelsea, where he looked like one of the best players in his position in the league. He's kind of been usurped a little bit by Kante, and it's maybe not the that Matic has declined, his ability has declined or anything like that. I think it's a different way that Conte plays. Conte plays are very much quite a high line with his defence, and he wants it to break quite quickly. And Matic is a little bit more sedate in that; he's a little bit more steady. Matic would be an ideal signing for a Mourinho team, for instance. And you could certainly see. When I look at it later on, that Mourinho could go back in for Matic and bring him up to United because he certainly has more of that steadiness that Mourinho likes. Other players that I think Chelsea have been linked to at the moment, Leonardo Bonucci, 30-year-old Juventus defender, spent past 7 or 8 years at Juventus and won pretty much everything you can win with them. He's worked with Conte before, both for Juventus and at international level. Leonardo Bonucci is a fantastic defender. He's been used to playing in the three-prong defence, the 3-5-2 or however it is the different teams play it. Very good passer of the ball, brings the ball out quite nicely. Couldn't play. You can play it in the centre of a back three, or you can play it towards the right of a back three. So there it is where you'd see him sort of fitting into that. I think Chelsea have certainly got the middle of their back three sorted with David Luiz, who's a very strong, sort of powerful and very confident and aggressive player, both in his aggressive nature that he approached it, but in his ability to say, right, this is it, this is my defence. So Bonucci you could certainly see there. Another defender they're looking at is Kalidou Koulibaly, the Senegalese player for Napoli. Plays for Napoli at the moment. He's been linked to quite a number of clubs. Again, very physical player, very offensive defender. Loves to come out and attack the ball to a little bit of detriment. So people state that he's a little bit hot-headed. He tries to win too much. Few injury problems, but nothing too serious that you'd see stopping him from progressing. But a little bit of, I'd say, tactical immaturity. But then again, he has been playing in Italy, which is, of course, tactics and defensive tactics, especially. People thrive there. Less so at Napoli, though. They're more of Napoli are a team that kind of break the mould, I suppose, within Italy of how they approach the game, and they're a little bit less Italian-centric in terms of the tactics they approach. They've always seen themselves as a little bit outside of that. Other players that they're looking at, you've got Conte. He's looking quite heavily at the Italian market. It's a market he knows, and also it's players that he knows. So he has a lot of contacts within that. You saw the same thing as when Wenger moved to Arsenal. He searched for a lot of French players, and now got the same thing at Liverpool. Klopp's looking for a lot of German players. So that tends to happen. It's just how these managers know and where they know. So we look at Domenico Berardi from Sassuolo, very quick winger, can play as any kind of central forward, can occupy the three positions. Very similar in stylings from what I've seen. I've not seen that much of him in stylings to Griezmann in the way that he can play. He moves out to the wings and uses his trickery and his agility to overcompensate for the fact that he's slighter in build, and he's not as a physical player. He's never going to be as physical as somebody like Zlatan, for instance. He's never had that physicality, but he certainly has the agility, the speed, and the awareness of players like Griezmann or Robin. I think he's been compared to as well. So we'll see there. And the final one that I'm going to cover for Chelsea at the moment is they're also looking at Andrea Bellotti, the breakout star of Serie A last season. Plays currently for Torino, the team that Joe Hart had a spectacular failure at as a on loan. 26 goals in Serie A this season. Serie A usually, that's a very high number of goals to get in Serie A. Not usually big scoring league there in terms of for how many goals the leading scorer ends up on. 23 years old. Again, he's arrived out of nowhere, really. Very good in the air. Also weighs both left and right footed. He's not the quickest, but has a great burst of acceleration in terms of the fact that he's not as quick over, let's say, 20 or 30 yards as wingers would be, as something like a Robin or a Mo Salah or anybody like that. But he's very quick over the sort of 6 to 8 yards, which is a better speed and a better state of purpose for acceleration for strikers, because they need to get nimbly in ahead of defenders. There's no point in having a striker who is fantastically quick over 40 yards, but it takes him 20 yards to get going. Strikers don't work within that little ream of movement. They work in little pockets of anything from 4 to sort of 10 as a maximum yards. It's why players, a lot of time, defenders, you wouldn't think they were quick. You would never say that some defenders are quick, but defenders are often very quick over that period between starting and getting to 4 yards, which doesn't seem like a lot, but we're talking about microseconds in football. It's a lot of time. It's speed of thought. It's speed of right. Well, I need to move that way that quickly, and it's the agility of working that way and getting it right. It's why sometimes defenders or strikers can go completely the wrong way. It's because sometimes they just go for the wrong side. And also, like a lot of Italian strikers, Mario Balotelli aside, strong work ethic, strong work rate. That's what you always get with Italians. Italian players, they're always strong, physically imposing. They do produce fantastic footballers. It's why for years Italy have been one of the best and the most, I suppose, no one's ever surprised by how good Italy are. Even as more recently as the European Championships, everyone thought it was going to be the worst Italy team that we'd seen in decades, and then they came out and wowed everybody with a panache and just a guile that is inherently there with Italian players and Italian teams. Other sort of possible departures, I suppose, which could have a knock-on effect, because that's how the transfer windows tend to work, is you have a domino effect. You'd say there would be Cesc Fabregas, possibility of him leaving. A lot of talk that he's unhappy with his limited time, and Madrid are often looking at Thibaut Courtois. Personally, I think that's more of Thibaut Courtois. Agents are wanting to kind of jump up the fee, etc., and get him a new contract. So, we'll move on next to Tottenham and have a look at their aspirations, who they'll be looking at and who they'll be looking to keep. So, Tottenham are one of, not a surprise last season, they were fantastic, but definitely one of the most entertaining teams to watch in the Premier League at the moment. Their ability to attack at pace and to use the trickery of players like Christian Eriksen and Dele Alli to complement the sheer work rate and effectiveness of someone like Harry Kane, who has come from being almost like a figure of ridicule from some detractors to being just genuinely one of the best out and out strikers. I'd be hard pushed to say in world football. For me, he's very reminiscent of Alan Shearer in a sense that often strikers, they have to have something, they have to have a certain thing. So, for instance, you have Fernando Torres, for instance, was incredibly quick. Often you have a physicality or there's something, an attribute that stands you out above most. Now, Kane isn't the quickest player. He's also, he's a strong player, but he's not the most physical. He's not, for instance, he's not as quick as an Aubameyang, for instance, and he's not as physical as a Lukaku, for instance, but he's quick enough, he's powerful enough, he's very much an all-round player in a similar mode, and like I said a minute ago, to an Alan Shearer, in the sense that because he's never had lightning pace to get himself out of trouble or to get himself ahead, or had that, or the physicality that Lukaku's had to get there. He's had to hone every single skill and had to really work at becoming the player he is, and that's why he's able to master. His finishing's incredible, and he's able to kind of fill that kind of void of a striker that we thought was gone. And the idea of one thing you've got to have is pace to be a striker, and he's proved that you don't. I don't know, he's not a slouch, but he doesn't have a blistering amount of pace. But previous 3 seasons has been incredible. All competitions, 51 games, 31 goals. 2014, 2015, 2016, 50 appearances, 28 goals. Last season, injury plagued. Kind of, missed a few games, 38 games, but 35 goals, 30 games in the Premier League, 29 goals, helped by, a 7-goal haul, I think, in the last 2 games of the season. Doesn't matter, still got 29 goals, doesn't matter when you get them, whether or not you get them in the last 2 games of the season or the first 2 games of the season. He still had an incredible season. I can't see Spurs doing that much business, personally. They're not making a lot of noises. I think theirs is going to be more a case to try to keep hold of players. I can't see them letting anyone go that they don't want to go. They don't need to. They don't need the money. And so Kyle Walker, apparently, it looks like he could be going. Number of clubs interested, Chelsea looking at it, but Man City looks to be a preferred destination. Talk about Danny Rose leaving, but I think that I don't think they get rid of both, but they've already got built-in replacements. I think they're going to look to use. Ben Davies debuted for Danny Rose last season while he was out injured, and Kieran Trippier has proved an adequate replacement for Kyle Walker. So I don't envision Tottenham probably going out and spending, if they get 40 million for Kyle Walker, which is perfectly understandable that they might. I can't see them going out and spending 35 million out, 30 million out on a replacement for Kyle Walker. You could see Pochettino looking at giving Kieran Trippier that chance to fill that void. Mrs. Sissoko will probably go. A bit of a strange behind the running and stuff that it seemed like he wanted a bigger club, and that's not a criticism of Tottenham, it's a criticism of Moussa Sissoko himself, in the sense that he got to a fantastic club in Tottenham, and a club very much on the up, but he seemed to think that he should be at one of the elite level clubs, but he doesn't want to put in the effort to get to one of the elite level clubs, so it ain't going to happen. I could see him ending back up at someone like PSG or possibly on Monaco, and thinking that he's upgraded, when actually what he's done is he's sidestepped, certainly. Tottenham, strong goalkeeper, fantastic defence, Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen, an argument, I would say, to claim that he's probably one of the strongest centre-back pairings, not in the Premier League, but in world football at the moment. They're a fantastic entertaining team. They're looking at, I think, sort of upgrading in the midfield, or not upgrading as such, but more kind of padding that midfield out and bringing a little bit of extra numbers in there and solidity in there. Matteo Kovacic, they're looking at him, or they're looking at Leon Goretzka from Schalke. So there's possibilities that we might see one of them come in, but they'll be not as such coming in as definite starters, but more, right, we'll bring these in for somewhere between 25 and 35 million probably, which is, like I say, standard. They paid 30 million last season for Moussa Sissoko. One of these players will be a slight wonder equivalent of that, because Sissoko's value was pushed up by the fact that he had a couple of very good games at the Euros. He shouldn't have detracted away from the fact that he was less than adequate for a relegated Newcastle the season before. So with Tottenham, not much really to go through. They're a steady club at the moment, which is fantastic for them. They had transfer windows, and Tottenham used to be a little bit crazy when you had the actual spiritual owner of the actual transfer window, Harry Redknapp, there, and we all know Daniel Levy likes to flex his deal muscle a little bit, but I think that with Pochettino, he likes to keep things a little bit more close to his chest, and he prefers to just get on and do things. I think if they do business, it'll be steady business. I just can't see Tottenham going out and throwing 50-60 million at players. It just doesn't seem like the style of the club, to be honest. Again, not criticism, just more an observation. So from there, we'll move on to Man City and see what they're looking at bringing in and who they're looking at buying for next season. They're already done some business so far. So one thing we know about Man City is that they'll spend a an incredible amount of money this season. There, owners are not scared to throw around cash. They spent near 200 million last year, and it's slightly they'll spend at least that, possibly even more this year. You know, they've already spent on Bernardo Silva, bringing him in for 43 million. That's an additional payment, but that could apparently rise with add-ons, the performance-related add-ons that he should achieve, the player of his ability and his quality, to near sort of 63 million, I think that they're looking at. So an incredible amount of money. Very such tricky player. He's seen weirdly as a long-term replacement for David Silva at Man City. Very similar player, great passing ability, both long passing and his short passing's fantastic as well. A part of that Monaco team that was so innovative and so fantastic to watch last season. I think he finished the season with 9 assists and had a huge bit of a revelation last season in terms of that. He also does chip in with goals. Not that many, but 8 I think he got last season. You should be looking at a player of his attacking midfielders. You want to be chipping 8 minimum, but you really want to be hitting the 12 goal mark every year. It's that number 10 role. Your number 10 should be getting you around 12 to 14 goals a season, and chipping in with that. He's going to be a very strong player next season. They've also brought in Edison Morales, the Benfica goalkeeper, where they've paid an astronomical, 35 million for him. It's an incredible amount of money, but he's a strong goalkeeper. A more orthodox goalkeeper than you've got at the moment with Claudio Bravo there, who just didn't work. He didn't suit I think it's unfairly treated. I think he just didn't. His play didn't suit Premier League. The speed of it, you get more time playing for Barcelona. Teams don't put that pressure on, but I think so much was made of the fact that Joe Hart was going out and Claudio Bravo, was coming in, and what he was there to do, and that he was there to kind of play as almost like the sweeper keeper role. Something that people claim Pep Guardiola invented, when actually in reality keeps have been doing it for years. Edison, very good on the ball. Most keepers are pretty good on the ball. Most modern keepers, most players, outfield players. Manuel Neuer, I think, actually has it in his current contract at Bayern Munich that he's got to play a game before his contract runs out as an outfield player at some point, an actual proper game. And I know that when Pepe Reina was at Liverpool, he played outfield in a friendly one. I think he played on the right wing and was perfectly fine. It'll be interesting to see how that works. He's a young keeper, 23. The general sort of consensus about keepers used to be that they didn't become worthy or ready for big clubs until they were in their late 20s, even towards the early 30s. Edwin van der Sar is a prime example for that. Johnny Manchester United at 35, I think, and going on to be one of their best ever keepers. And that's a very very exclusive club to be in, certainly at that club. But it'll be remain to see how it'll go with the physicality of it. That's always the thing when new keepers come in. It's not just something that you say. There is an element of. It's not that the Premier League is more physical we think it is, but it's actually not more physical than a lot of leagues. It's not more physical than the German league. It's not more physical than the Spanish league a lot of the time. It's that there's a difference in tolerance of the physicality in the Premier League. Certainly, referees they do officiate differently in the Premier League than you would say European officials do, and it's created this false narrative that the Premier League is, when players around the Premier League, it's, will they get used to the physicality? It's not will they get used to the physicality of it, it's more will they get used to not getting free kicks where they would have elsewhere got free kicks. They're not scared of it. It's just a foul in the Premier League often. A foul in the Spanish league, the Portuguese league, wouldn't be a foul in the Premier League or the Turkish Super League. The Turkish Super League is another very physical league. It's not just us that have the monopoly on physicality in our leagues. So there's the two sides they've made already. They'll also be looking at bringing Kyle Walker in. He's very sort of strongly rumoured there, 40 million for him. It's known that Pep Guardiola wants to bring Alexis Sanchez. Didn't have the best of times under Pep Guardiola at Barcelona, but Pep Guardiola was a big fan of him at Barcelona. It's just the positions that he occupied were either on that left-hand side, and at the time you had Thierry Henry was there, Neymar, or the right-hand side, which is where Alex Sanchez at the time enjoyed playing. Of course, you had Messi, so it was a little bit difficult. Alex Sanchez was kind of like the right player at the wrong time, I suppose, at Barcelona. Bids also looking like Nelson Semedo, the right back for Benfica. Possibility. They need a right back. Zabaleta's gone. Looks like he's going to West Ham, which is insane. He should go to a better club than West Ham, a more organised club. James Rodriguez, Real Madrid is shipping around track at the best price from everywhere. He's a player who I think has a lot of talent, but he's never quite stood up to where people sort of thought he was. A few fantastic goals in the 2010 World Cup. 2014 World Cup, but never really, I think it gave a false narrative on how good he actually probably was. They're also looking at Antonio Rudiger from Roma, Bellotti, who we spoke about earlier, for Chelsea. They're also looking there. Ryan Bertrand's been rumoured as a possible, looking towards that. What it will say is you could see they've already spent like nearly 100 million already. They'll spend another 40 on Kyle Walker. They'll bring in possibly another 2 or 3 players. You know, if Arsenal, if they think they can get Alexis Sanchez, they'll definitely spend 60 million on him. So yeah, they're a team that's going to go there, but it's not about, I think, buying players with Man City. It's whether or not it works. Guardiola is yet to find that kind of balance between his styles and how it goes, and it's a new tack for him, the essential of building a squad. He didn't really build a squad at Barcelona. He inherited added to a squad. Bayern Munich, he inherited one of the best squads in world football and added to it, and successfully added to it. But at Man City, what he seems to be doing is treating it as this is his project to build an entire team in his image. So he's brought in people like John Stones. There was rumours that he was looking at Virgil van Dijk, who we'll talk about in regards to Liverpool earlier, but I can't see him going back in for Virgil van Dijk once it became known that Van Dijk preferred a move to Liverpool. You just can't see them then going, well, we'll pay a second fiddle and we'll go for that. They'll buy a sense about this season. They need to buy a sense about this for this season. Koulibaly, they're also looking at him as well, but I have a feeling he could go. Atletico Bilbao, Eric Laporte is what I could see him looking to go. Eric Laporte's a very steady head, very good on the ball, calm. He's very good in the air. He's a 23-year-old French defender, but he looks like he could. He looks like he's been playing the game for 10, 15 years. So that should be. I could see them going for something like Laporte. It's the departures. A lot of players out of contract. Willy Carrera looking like going to possibly Chelsea or maybe Newcastle. Wilfred Boney's come back. Will he go back out on loan? Highly likely. Fabian Delph needs to find a new club. Went there essentially as a glory money hunt. Really, it was silly. He stalled his career from there. Gabriel Jesus will be a fantastic player next season. Gael Clichy is also out of contract, so he's leaving. And also Jesus Navas. I'm surprised nobody's actually looked to sort of pick him up. Eloquent Malangala is coming back, it would seem. Will he go back out? Probably the same. Samir Nasri, they can't get rid of him, and of course, Where's Joe Hart going to end up? Who wants to pay 25-30 million for a player that they know is very much unwanted at Man City? So Man City will spend a lot of money. They will probably recruit nowhere near as much money as they thought they were going to recruit. So you'll see players going out on loan. They've never quite got the handle of the transfer market in terms of balancing money, like for instance Chelsea have over the years. But they've got so much money that it just doesn't matter. So we'll move on now and talk about my club, Liverpool, and look at what they're going to look to bring in and they're going to look to ship out as well. So Liverpool, my club, huge Liverpool fan. As to explain, for any new listeners, or the football podcast, the film podcast that I do with my wonderful co-host Ian Laurie, I don't believe in the partisan nature of football. I'm not a football fan who celebrates other teams getting beat or anything like that. All I give a shit about is whether or not my team win or not, and the rest of it, I just enjoy it. So although I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm not a Liverpool fan who has any kind of deep disdain for any other club. Really, I frankly don't care. I just enjoy my club. We had a very good season last season. I think had it been the reverse around, we entered that 2-month period between sort of January and February, it'd have been an amazing season. But we did. But we still, the aim at the start of the season was to get back in that top 5. We've been in it once in the past 7 years, and we achieved that. We did it last year of the season. We made it hard for ourselves, but that's kind of what we do. It was unfortunate that the title push kind of fizzled out in January, February, but we were never built for a title push. We didn't have European football, but we didn't have a squad that was strong enough to do it. We had a negative, a plus net transfer spend last season. I think we made near 7 million. We spent a lot of money, but we recouped a lot of it back. You've got to sell players to do that. So if you're selling 5 players and bringing in 5 players, you're still only left with the same amount of players, aren't you? But Gini Wijnaldum was a fantastic signing for us. Roberto Firmino adapted fantastically. I think last season Sadio Mane was an absolute revelation for how good he was. I think Liverpool fans expected a good player and were surprised at how good he was. Joe Matip looks fantastic. Needs fitness issues, I think, certainly there, but he still looks like a very steady player who ball-playing defenders are very on vogue at the moment, but there's a reason for that. It's because of the high-line defences player. Loris Karius, I think, had a difficult first season. I think breaking his hand in pre-season training didn't exactly help matters. It gave him a wrong shot starting foot. Mignolet started instead of Karius. I think Karius was brought in to be the number 1 keeper, but Mignolet started instead. And the issue with that was Mignolet wasn't playing badly when he was dropped, and Loris Karius came in, but then Karius had to kind of adapt whilst also getting used to a new league, and I don't think there's a physicality issue. I think he's quite a physical player, but there was a concentration element of he wasn't starting having I'm number 1, and he'd essentially been brought in, but Mignolet hadn't made a clanger or anything like that. A few mistakes, but I still think that the long term plan will be to get Loris Karius in as Liverpool starting keeper. Other big bits of business to do, I think, for Liverpool before we start talking about transfers are tying down Emre Can. Had a stuttering sort of start for last season. I think he didn't come back from the Euros quite fit enough, and it took him a bit of a while to get going. But once he did, you saw the unbelievable talent the man has. He's 24 years old, but he looks like a player of 25, 26. In terms of his physicality that he's got, but he's also fantastic on the ball. He's one of the few players, I think, a few midfield players in the Premier League who looks like there's the ability to sort of take a game by the scruff of the neck and run a game. A criticism which has been fairly, I think, last season, although I don't think he had a bad season. I should cover that now. It's a criticism that has been levelled at Paul Pogba in terms of he doesn't look like, at the moment, he has that thing to grab a game and take it and go, no, this is my game. Emre Can, from what I watch of him, and I watch a lot of him, he certainly does have that, and he has done it for Liverpool a number of times. But he also has the ability to have a 4 out of 10 game just as often as he will a 10 out of 10 game. So there's that there. Out for Liverpool, Daniel Sturridge is still a possibility that he might leave. Mamadou Sakho will be leaving with Absolute. But also there's a few sort of loan players that came back. Lazar Markovic will go, and Liverpool will be looking at recruit something like 15, 20 million for him. And Kev Stewart will probably go. He's 24 years old, he hasn't made it yet. It just isn't going to happen. Very solid player, somebody like Brighton. You could see behind him, Moral Huddersfield getting that. You've got a very solid, dependable player. Kevin Stewart's one of those players who his passing of over 4 to 6 yards is incredible. He will retain the ball, but essentially he's a little bit like a Joe Allen light, and we got rid of Joe Allen last season, so why did he get rid of Ken Stewart? I don't know. John Flanagan again, it's just not going to work for him. He'll probably go, I would think, there. Other sort of possible exits, be sad to see, but it does look like Lucas Leiva's 10-year stint at Liverpool is coming to an end. Very popular character in the dressing room, very popular character with Liverpool fans. I've always had a lot of time for Lucas. I'm not one of the new people that jump on the Lucas bandwagon. I've always had a lot of time for Lucas Leiva. In terms of bringing people in, the big one with Virgil van Dijk, which of course anyone who follows football will know that Liverpool kind of their wrist slapped a little bit in that for the perceived tapping up. It's a strange one, that, because tapping up happens. It's something that all clubs do. It's something that is almost accepted, but at the end of the day, it is actually against the rules, and it pissed somebody off at Southampton, and they chose to, quite rightly, voice their concerns to the Premier League. That these things happen. I think Liverpool dealing with it. You know, if you've agreed terms with the player and the player wants to join you, then put a bid in. It's as simple as that. You know, that's what they should have done. I think Southampton's issues were that it was leaked, and it very much came out that Van Dijk wanted to join Liverpool, and that was his preferred destination. And what Southampton really wanted was they wanted some kind of bidding war between Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool, and so to push the price up from the 45-50 million that was being talked about to push it up towards the 65-70 million once it comes out that he wants to go to Liverpool and that he's preferred that over Chelsea and Man City, that straight away their interest is gone. So essentially you've gone from having a bidding war to one club saying, all right, 50 million then, I suppose putting a complaint in. I still think that Virgil van Dijk will join Liverpool, but I think Liverpool have to pay a premium extra for him. So I think you'll be looking at, they'll save face between the both clubs. So you'll probably be looking at Southampton report it as being signed for 70 million. It'll be an undisclosed fee, and Liverpool will probably pay 63 million, something like that, for him. Other players Liverpool looking at Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I like Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I think he's a very good player from Arsenal. He become frustrated, I think, by his lack of position there. I don't think it's more his lack of games. It's the lack of being trusted in his preferred position, which is central midfield or a central midfield with an emphasis on going forward. There, so he's looking at a leave. Only a year left on his contract, so the 35-40 million that Arsenal are talking about is frankly crazy. You should be looking at getting him for 20 to 25 million. I think that's overpriced, but in today's market, it's probably about fair. Other players that we've been looking at is Ryan Sessegnon. Well, I think he's going to Tottenham anyway, which I didn't mention when I spoke about Tottenham. But yeah, Ryan Sessegnon, the 17-year-old Fulham left back. He lives in Fulham. Well, he lives in London now. The idea is that he wants to stay around his family. His family would like him to stay around there. So Tottenham seems like an ideal move. And to be honest, Tottenham's a great club to go to for a young player. So you could see him going in there and him being used as the, I suppose, be used to sort of fill in for Danny Rose. Danny Rose's injury problems kick up again. Other players looking at Michael Caine from Burnley, can't see it happening. I think that it'd be too much of a step down from Virgil van Dijk. Jamal Gray, Leicester, again, I don't think the interest is as much as has been rumoured. Ryan Bertrand, I think, from Southampton, the whole Virgil van Dijk Southampton thing, I think he's going to rule that out. Other players we spoke about, Ricardo Rodriguez spoken about, but he's already joined AC Milan, so I don't know where that's coming from. Naby Keita, the Red Bull Leipzig player. A lot of players being sort of people are comparing him to Kante, and I've seen him. He's not really a Kante. He gets forward a lot more than that. Although Kante gets forward a lot more than people would think. 5'7", 5'8", I think he is, but a powerful central midfield player, very much a box to box player in terms of how he operates. Leipzig don't need to sell. They don't need the money. They'd like to build their team around Naby Keita. So I think they'd be reluctant to sell, to be honest. But money talks. If we threw 50 million at him, he probably would end up being a Liverpool player. It's whether or not Liverpool want to spend that amount of money. You know, the amount of money that's been spoken about Liverpool having is upward of 150 million to spend. Well, if you're going to spend 60 million on Virgil van Dijk and then you're going to throw 35 million at Mohamed Salah, then you're looking at another 50 million there on Naby Keita. There, you're already crossing the 140 million barrier there, which would be incredible for what Liverpool spent to say that we gained money last season. The more Salah transfer seems inevitable now. It's just about working out the finer details for how much Roma want. It's nobody else going for him, which is quite a surprise. He's in the past 2 seasons at Roma, 34 games in 2015, 2016, 14 goals from a winger position is fantastic. And last season, 31 games, 15 goals from winger position. Those are really strong numbers. And he does get assists phenomenally quick. Unfairly labelled as being a flop at Chelsea. He never really got a chance, to be honest. They were quite full of players in that position at the time. Still only 25 years old, in fact only just 25 years old as well. 35 million is the going rate for that player. Nobody else is trying to buy him, and Roma have a financial fair play. Yeah, remember that, people? Financial fair play seems like a long time ago, but they have financial fair play regulations to stump up in that. Essentially, they need to bring in 32 million, I think it is, before the end of this month. Otherwise, they will receive sanctions for breaching financial fair play. So, getting 35 million for Mo Salah there straight away, that covers that. So I think that'll happen. Liverpool, in my eyes, they need 4 or 5 players in terms of 3 players to come in, actually to be possible starting 11 or top 14 players. But also they need to strengthen the squad depth. We've got European football next season, which we didn't have last season. The squad needs bulking up a little bit. I think they actually need really a centre-back. I think they need a left-back, at least one. Andy Robertson from Hull, he's been talked about. I'd be perfectly happy with that. I think he's a great little player. I don't think right a left back are a position you need to spend 40 million on. I think you'd be fine spending 14 million on somebody like Andy Robertson and seeing how he goes. You know, there's not a plethora of right and left backs out there. Man City are about to spend 40 million for Kyle Walker as a right back, who's a fantastic right back. Is right back worth 40 million a season? I don't know. I don't see it. Of course, there is the other rumour that Man City are actually also about to sign Dani Alves as a right back, so maybe that puts the kibosh on the Kyle Walker deal. So where will he go? Will he stay at Tottenham? This is all the interesting thing for going, or is he bringing in Dani Alves to play alongside Kyle Walker? And you'll see Alves playing in the European games and the Cup games, and you'll see Kyle Walker playing in the league games there. Who knows? But I also do think Liverpool need to bring in centre midfield, and they need to bring at least 2 forwards in. So Mohamed Salah would be one, and it all depends on what happens with Daniel Sturridge. But I could see them bringing in a natural striker. Timo Werner from RB Leipzig has been rumoured. I can't see Timo Werner going anywhere but one of the big German clubs, to be honest. I think he'll stay around there. And plus Leipzig, they don't have to sell. So it could be an interesting season for Liverpool. It'll be amazing to see if they spend any money, that 150, 200 million that has been rumoured. But it's the going rate for what you've got to spend nowadays. So we'll move on to Arsenal next. Arsenal, strange season for them last season in the sense that they lost the coveted Champions League players. I think that had a big effect on Arsene Wenger. You know, he hasn't left. He was never going to leave. I don't think he was always going to stay. I don't think Arsene Wenger will leave when he wants to leave, not when fan pressure calls him to leave, or even the argument to state that he should leave. It's going to be a toxic environment no matter what happens at Arsenal next season, because if every time they lose, the Wenger out brigade will be out in full force. Do they have an argument to say a change? Yeah. The problem is it's a what do you wish for? You know, there isn't a natural replacement for Wenger out there. I don't think. You know, people are saying, they should bring in someone like Diego Simeone. Well, Arsenal fans, have you watched Atletico Madrid play? You really wouldn't like it. Thomas Tuchel's been spoken about, but he's left Borussia Dortmund under a little bit of a cloud from there. So it's Arsenal need to really have an incredible season next season to stop the rot a little bit. Their pursuit of Kylian Mbappe is trying for that. With Mbappe, it does seem a little bit like his agents are fluttering their eyelashes at the Premier League clubs to kind of awaken a Real Madrid bid. To be honest, that is what it seems like it's going to happen. Madrid won't make a bid until they've sold at least James Rodriguez or somebody like that to actually raise some funds so they can actually go for someone like Kylian Mbappe, who's going to cost near 100 million, let's say 100 million for argument's sake. Arsenal will probably end up not getting Kylian Mbappe, but they'll probably end up getting Alexander Lacazette. I mean, there's no shame in that. Lacazette's had a fantastic couple of years playing for Lyon, and Arsenal looked to get him last season, but last season it's Lyon wanted 35 near to 40 million. Arsenal weren't prepared to pay it. Instead, they went out and bought Lucas Perez for 22 million when they should have just got Lacazette. He's been fantastic the past couple of years. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, I got a sneezing fit there, hay fever. So apologies for that. He did a fantastic couple of years. 27 goals in 2014, 2015 in the league. 21, 2015, 2016 and 28 last season. Just 30 games. Fantastic numbers already from a player. Quick, powerful, everything you'd need to be a proper successful Premier League striker. Physicality, pace, great finishing, thunderous shots. 26 years old. He needs that big move now. He needs to move to one of the European elite clubs certainly, and Arsenal would be a great fit for him. Also, Liverpool have looked at him, as have Manchester United. So it is between that. Personally, I think I could see him going to Arsenal. It fits for that. They're also looking at Arda Turan, the Turkish player at Barcelona. Liverpool have often been linked to him, and he's often said of his wanting to play for Liverpool. Never quite happened. Went to Barcelona when actually they could have registered players, so he actually had 6 months out of the game. But he is service requirements there. Would be one of those, like the Lucas Podolski signing when they signed Podolski at Arsenal, one of those kind of under the radar signings. It's actually a really solid signing. They're still looking at Riyad Mahrez. I, to be honest, wouldn't touch Riyad Mahrez. I think he's a very good player who doesn't have the application to be a great player. With Arsenal, it's more about the outs. It's more about keeping players on board. You know, they lost that Champions League players, which was the thing they always kind of had for, well, we're always in the Champions League. I'll always get to play in the Champions League. The almost near socialist nature of Arsene Wenger's approach, whereby you'll have a player like Kieran Gibbs might be on £60,000 a week, and then you'll have Alexis Sanchez on £150,000 a week. They don't want that big a disparity between the players, which is admirable but just not feasible nowadays. So Alexis Sanchez wants near £250,000 to £300,000 a week, and Arsenal don't seem like they've been willing to pay it. If they are going to pay it now, it's going to be more desperation to keep players like Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil, who will be looking at it and saying, well, we're both 28 years old, we need to move on to sort of not further their careers, but add to that trophy haul. You've also got both Man City and Barcelona hovering around Hector Bellerin. Personally, I've never seen him with Hector Bellerin. I think he's, with the exception of pace, I don't think there's an awful lot of sense there. But playing people who watch Arsenal week in, week out say he's a fantastic right back, so I'll trust him a little bit more than my limited knowledge of it, and my knowledge kind of tainted by the fact that I find him an unpleasant player to watch for some reason. I just don't get on with him, is what I'll say. Arsenal need a little bit of an overhaul, but Wenger doesn't seem like the man who's going to give them that overhaul. They need an injection of 4 or 5 players, and Wenger will only ever bring in 2 or 3. I think it's going to be a tough season again next season for Arsenal. What they need to do is not have what happened to Liverpool when they dropped out of the Champions League a few years ago, where it just became the norm, really. Liverpool for instance aren't a Champions League club anymore. What Liverpool have done since we got back in the Champions League is we profess to kind of be one of the European elite, which they are one of the European elite. It's just they've not had the success of the European leagues, and that's where they need to get to. What Arsenal need to do is not fall out of that bracket and have what happened to Liverpool, but it does seem like it's going to be difficult, and the oeuvre that used to be around Arsenal for attracting and the chance to go to play for Arsene Wenger just isn't there anymore, because players want to go and play for other managers now. It's as simple as that. Managers like Conte, Pochettino, Klopp, these are the managers that now have the draw and the aura to go and play for in the Premier League. And managers like, for instance, Wenger, and to an extent, really Mourinho, because of his prickly nature that has developed over the years, it's starting to be that sheen is starting to come off a little bit. Be it right or wrong, I think it's going to be a tough season for Arsenal. They're not going to get rid of Wenger halfway through the season, but signing a 2-year contract, I can't see that 2 years lasting out. I think that he'll probably walk at some point. But I just can't see even halfway through the season. It could be a tough season for Arsenal fans, unfortunately. So the final club we're going to chat about before I'm going to answer some of your questions is Manchester United. So Manchester United in the post-Alex Ferguson era, they love to spend some money. They almost seem determined to kind of to show how, to essentially flex their muscle and show how much money they've got and how much of a financial powerhouse they are, which they are. It's fine, there's no problem with that. But it does seem like, for instance, last season they were bidding for Paul Pogba when nobody else was bidding for him, and they were just determined to spend a world record fee to kind of go, look, yeah, we're not in the Champions League anymore, but look, we're still Manchester United. The sign of Paul Pogba, you can't say it was a roaring success, but it was by certainly no means was it anywhere near a disaster that some people would claim that it has been. He had an alright season, a solid enough season. In terms of for his output, really should be better for an 85 million, 90 million pound player. But the argument state there is Paul Pogba never was an 85 to 90 million pound player. That's just how much Manchester United paid for him and how much you've ever sold him for. His goal record was never that much. He's never, I think, his final 2 seasons at Juventus, in all competitions, I think he knocked out 10 goals each season, 8 goals in the league, I think. He knocked out 9 last season. So there's that. He's not a midfield general. He's not quite a luxury player, but he verges on that. He's got fantastic ability and fantastic skill and fantastic talent. And he has very good marketing. There's no way of getting around that. He's also a character of the game, and you pay for character of the game. United's best signing last season was Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He had a fantastic season last season at United. Not going to be there next season, and a knee injury rules him out until probably the new year. So because of that, United have chosen not to extend his contract, it would seem, for the time being. Looks like he'll be US bound, but he came and he really did add a touch of character to the Premier League. 46 games, Manchester United, 28 goals is a phenomenal output. And it was great to have him in the league for a season because he is a character. United have already signed players so far. Victor Lindelof has joined, central defender from Benfica. The one thing you get, and you're going to get with Mourinho, is he buys players from a certain agency, we'll say. He has his friends, and he has business interests with Jorge Mendes, and so often players come from, well, almost always, players that he brings in come from Jorge Mendes, pool of players, and Lindelof is no different. I think he's a very good player, actually. I think he'll fit quite nicely into, Scandinavian players often do, fit quite nicely into the Premier League. I thought they didn't have a problem there. So another strong centre-back being brought in. Also looking, they've been linked with a lot of players, to be honest. Romelu Lukaku, looking at that, I think he's going to go to Chelsea. But if United want to gazump Chelsea, then they can. Griezmann's essentially turned them down, and the United said that their interest had cooled. Well, no, just Atletico didn't want to sell him to you because they can't buy him. They wanted to replace him. I think if Bale wants to leave Real Madrid, then that United will be the club that will buy him, because it's the only club that can afford to spend that kind of money on him. Will they go back in for Ronaldo? I just can't see United wanting to spend whatever it cost, 80 to 120 million, somewhere in between that, to bring in a 32-year-old player. Outs, there's not going to be, I don't think, that many outs as such. There's not that many players to kind of get rid of, really, at United. The squad's been sort of toned down over recent years anyway. As I pretty much using, Wayne Rooney will go. It's just where will he go is the thing. And you've got players like Januzaj, who you can't see them coming back. Ashley Young will probably leave this season, or should leave this season. But you can't see anybody being able to take away the big players. You can't see anyone taking Rojo or Mata away unless United actually want to sell. The one that they might lose, that they don't want to lose, is David De Gea. But I think in return, if that does happen, they'll probably get Morata or a favourable deal on Rafael Varane. Morata, an old school striker in the sense that he's a bit of a poacher. He gets a lot of his goals in the box, and again, in a similar sort of vein to someone like Harry Kane, not explosively quick, not explosively powerful, just a good all-round player. Whether or not he'll settle in the Premier League, I don't know. At the time will tell. Will he settle in like a player? Like for instance, when Ruben Nistelrooy came in, he was a similar. Didn't have blistering pace, didn't have blistering power, but he had an ability to put the ball in the net, which is what players need. And if they can do that, they're fine. Michael Caine, you could see him possibly going back to United as a backup striker, backup defender, signed for 20 million, etc. Perisic from Inter Milan, they're very much interested in him. Very quick, very nimble, aggressive player. He'd be a good signing for any club, I think, in the Premier League. He'd fit in perfectly well there. James Rodriguez still been linked to United. It's who wants to spend that 60 million, really, to be honest. It's a risk buy, I think, James Rodriguez, for any club to bring him in. So, again, United will spend big. They'll spend a lot of money. It's just where they'll spend it could be the quite interesting thing. There's only a small group of players out there that United want to go for, and there'll be a lot of other clubs going for them. It's whether or not United want to flex that much financial might, which they will do. Mourinho's keeping quite quiet. He said almost that he's staying out of transfer speculation and transfer negotiations, just leaving it up to everyone else to go. I very much doubt that Mourinho's too much of a control freak to do that. But it could be quite interesting. So yeah, that's the top six. It's going to be an interesting season in terms of who brings in whom, who goes where. You've got that domino effect, I think, usually. So you usually have a few transfers that will actually kick the whole thing off, and then you'll have no signings for 3-4 weeks, and all of a sudden in a week you'll have 5 or 6. What often happens is the big clubs want to get theirs in and done and dusted before August at the very latest to try and get them in and get them through pre-season. So it might have been a bit rambling there, but it was my first attempt at a solo podcast, so I hope I haven't bored you too much. I do have a couple of questions that I'm going to go through and answer before I bid you adieu. So, first one, the Ginger Prince TGP73. If Liverpool could afford Ronaldo, would you welcome him to Anfield? Well, what I'll say there is, we can afford him. The simple fact is that the majority of Premier League clubs can afford him. The majority top 6 clubs can afford him because there's a lot of money in the Premier League. It's an insane amount of money. Liverpool didn't spend anything last season. So we have last season's money, this season's money plus whatever. The fact is that he's going to cost you somewhere between 80 and 120 million. Where it falls in that, you don't know. You'd be closer to 120 million because he's Ronaldo and the sheer amount of ability he's got, but you'd also be closer to 80 million because of the fact that he's 32 years old. You won't even get 2-3 years out of him. It's an awful lot of money to spend for 2 to 3 years, especially with no resale value that you've got there. Would I welcome him at the club? Now, let's say, for instance, if we could get him for 45-50 million, would I welcome him at the club? Absolutely, yes. He's a fantastically gifted footballer. Would I have welcomed him at the club 3 years ago for a world record fee? Probably not, to be honest. No, he's cooled over the years in the sense that his ego's kind of become fun in a similar way to what happened with Zlatan, and he can almost put up fun at himself. And the one thing you can never criticise Ronaldo for is his sheer ability is incredible. In the debate between Messi versus Ronaldo, I do always fall on Messi's side. I think Messi is the most naturally gifted footballer that's ever existed. And don't get me wrong, Messi does work incredibly hard for it, but Ronaldo took a very high ceiling of natural ability and then crafted himself into being one of the greatest footballers of all time. And I think that sometimes goes underappreciated, quite how much that guy has worked to become the player he is. Fuck it, yeah, I'd take him happily. And it's not my money, so if they did want to spend 130 million, let's face it, Ronaldo would probably be the top scoring player in the Premier League next season, no matter which club he was at. It just doesn't mean that club would win the title or finish high up in the league. It's just because he will just get the ball, run or shoot. that's it. With Ronaldo, you get an element of he's the main man. I don't think he's not a team player. I don't think he's trying to win things for Ronaldo. I've never agreed with that. That's been leveled at him. But I think he wants to win things for the team rather than be part of the team that's winning things, if that makes any sense. John at John Zola. Which team will be a surprise package next season? Do Everton have title ambitions? No, I think Everton don't have title ambitions. Again, not a criticism of my Blue Nose friends, but I think that they have ambitions of challenging for the top four, and I think that makes perfect sense for Everton. When you're talking about a club that's not had a title push in near 30 years. So it'd be unwise for them to push for the title. I don't think they'll do it. Not to say that they won't do it. If they're in and around in December, then that 9-game period that you've got from the middle of December to the start of January, where you have 9 league games, virtually a quarter of a season in just a couple of weeks. If they're in and around it there and they can come out of that relatively unscathed, then why not push for title? They've actually got a really difficult start to the season of Everton. I think they've got home and away in their first 6 games. They've got Manchester City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, I think, and maybe even United as well in that. So it's going to be a tough start to the season if they come out of that unscathed. They're certainly making the right noises. They need to replace Lukaku. I think it's inevitable he's going. But it'll all depend on where their goals will come from, because a large bulk of their goals came from Lukaku, so they need to get that position right. They need to get that signing right. Pickford's, he was a very good goalkeeper last season. Whether or not, it's easy to have a high save success rate when you're facing that many shots, is what I'll say. Klassen thinks a very good player, that bringing that in. He's a great signing. My surprise for next season is, I think Newcastle will have a very strong season. I also think Huddersfield. My surprise next season would be, I think only Brighton out of the promoted clubs will struggle to stay up. I think Huddersfield and Newcastle will stay up quite strong. I can see Swansea having a strong season next season. Not challenging for titles or anything like that, but solidifying a place there. Crystal Palace, they could do things. Bringing in Marcus Silva's an interesting appointment there. So we'll see. But I'm gonna say Palace. I can see Palace being the surprise package of next season. And then finally, I think I do actually have a question from Master Loring, but he's put it on. Ian Loring, who is going down next year? Brighton will go down next year. Watford will go down next year. And I also think the thing is, the teams are getting better, I think. But I think Brighton, Watford, I think Swansea will be okay. I think Newcastle and Huddersfield will be okay. I could see West Brom struggling. I think Bournemouth might struggle a little bit. I think they've got to get their purchases right. Otherwise, the shine's going to kind of come off that a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to go for Brighton, Watford, and I think West Brom. West Brom will struggle next season, despite the fact they had a good season. Or actually, no, I'm changing that. Stoke. I think Stoke go down. I think that their squad's got too old. Simple as that. It's too old, and the younger players are too lazy. So yeah, Brighton will finish bottom, Watford will finish second bottom, and Stoke will go down on the last weekend of the season. So yeah, that was the first episode of DaaM-U-Football. Any feedback would be nice. Apologies if I rambled on and bored the living hell out of you. There'll be more to talk about as the season goes on, or as the season draws closer. But I thank you very much for listening. Check out the film podcast, Dude and the Monkey. I'm DaaM-U at DaaM-U. Also check out at Ian Loring at dudeandthemonkey.com. At Dude and the Monkey. Email us at dudeandthemonkey@gmail.com. Anything else? I'll just speak to you next time. Thank you. Bye.